Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first T&E session of the year. Today we have 3 items to cover, all focused on transportation-related issues, and we have esteemed guests from MCDOT joining us to cover them. Our first item is a special appropriation for Right-On to develop a crowdsourcing app system. We were introduced to this item last fall when Councilmember Glass and I responded with a few questions and asked MCDOT to come back with answers. Dr. Orland, thank you for your great packet. Can you feel free to take over?
Looks like he fell off. I'm bringing him back.
Uh-oh.
Right. Here he comes.
Sorry, I got blipped out here for a minute. I missed the last 30 seconds. Am I ready to start?
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Okay. First item is a carryover. Sorry about that. First item is a carryover from November 4th. It's a supplemental appropriation for $720,300 for Right-On crowdsourcing system. $450,000 is from a federal grant, which has been received, and $270,300 is from the county mass transit funds. The goal of this supplemental is to create an app which would allow riders to be able to see what the extent that a Right-On bus arriving soon has in terms of number of people on the bus, and people can decide whether or not they want to get on the bus or not, because if it's too crowded, they may not want to. It also allows for the drive for central dispatch to understand if a bus is overcrowded, and they can immediately send out what's called a tripper, or basically an extra bus or 2 if necessary, to fill up the slack in terms of the capacity. There was a lot of discussion of the November 4th work session. Mr. Hucker, you had a follow-up question having to do with procurement. Mr. Glass had a question about whether or not it was worth doing a second app. And DOT has provided responses on circles 14 and 15, and they can talk about that some more if you'd like. My recommendation, I don't have a recommendation whether to do this or not. I think that the second purpose of providing a quicker way for central dispatch to put out a tripper is useful either during the pandemic or after, particularly after. I'm not sure about the first goal about understanding the overcrowding the buses for various reasons I point out in the pack, and I don't want to take too much time because I know where folks want to go to the other meeting if they can. And so my recommendation is, if you decide to approve the supplemental, do it, but without $108,550 in county funds, because that's in-kind services, which are basically already budgeted. We're budgeted in the FY21 budget, 22 budget you approved last May. So the total will be $611,750 and $161,750 in mass transit funds. And with that, I turn over to you folks if you want to ask DOT more about the answers they provided to your questions.
Thanks, Dr. Orland. Councilmember Glass, you had some very good questions about this.
Yeah, so I appreciate the background, Dr. Orland, and appreciate the response, Director Conklin. I see you here, and Ms. Henn. I still remain a skeptic of this allocation. The simple reason being, if you're standing outside waiting for the bus, you just want the bus to come. And especially now that because of a shortage of bus operators, there are even fewer buses. I think people just need to get on the bus to get to work and to do their daily chores. And so the fact that we will now have multiple apps sharing information, I think, is just an overload. And I don't think the functionality, while well-intended, will actually benefit the actual user. And so at this point, I still remain a skeptic about this.
Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. Could MCDOT talk about why this app is able to do something that you can't otherwise do, as far as assessing the crowding and so forth? Like, how do you do that now? I know you have communications technology with the buses. So what is it that this is adding, to your capability?
Happy to do that. Ms. Henn has done quite a bit of background research on exactly what's achieved through this research grant. So I'll let her respond to your question and hopefully provide a little bit more clarity, because there are multiple apps that can make use of this information, including the Move It one that's part of this grant. So Hannah, why don't you walk us through kind of what exactly is achieved here?
Yes, thank you, Director Conklin, and thank you to the committee for reconsidering this topic. Similar to Councilmember Glass, I will say at some points in this process, I have been a skeptic of this program myself, and I have asked many, many questions of our transit division on the goals and what we're really trying to achieve. And actually, I come to you today fully converted as to the value of this grant. So I'm hoping that I can explain it in a way that will make more sense to you, as it now makes more sense to me. Yes.
So Chris Conklin is called technical support. Okay, let's.
No, so I am a transit app user, and in the last session, I think that there was some misunderstanding in terms of what this app is looking to do. So we are not looking to create an app that recreates other apps out there. I personally use the transit app. I have been asking what would get me to use any app other than an app that I already use. And so the value that I'd like to put forward to you today is that while there are many apps out there, and the reason that our crowdsourcing data, our bus crowding data is being put out by our new clever device system, it's actually not directly related to this grant. So we can, without this grant, we can put out the information of how crowded our buses are. We will be doing that regardless of this grant, and we will be making that information publicly available, as many other transit agencies already do. If you look at the transit app today, so I'm using transit as just because it's the one I'm most familiar with and the one that I use. If you look at the transit app today, you can see on a scale of 1 to 3 how crowded a metro bus is. And the intention is that now that we are upgrading all of our buses to the clever devices, that information will be available, and any transit app can access that information and share it with riders. The difference, and where I see the true value in this grant, is that because it is a partnership with the application developer, and that partnership is being primarily paid by the federal government, not by us, for a relatively low cost, we have access to their data. So instead of us just giving them our crowding data, we have a partnership with Move It and can work with them to learn what they're learning back of house. So we can see, does this shift the way that people plan their trips? Do people look up this information? Do they use it? Is it something that people are even noticing? Does it seem to impact what trips they actually take? Does it actually make a difference? And then ultimately, at the conclusion of what in my mind is essentially, well, it is a research grant. So it's essentially a study. We're performing research. Even if we decide not to keep going with this white label app that Move It is developing, we will have, with the spending less than $200,000, we will have all of this learned information that we can then put out publicly to any app. So we can make the transit app better. We can tell any app developer, here's what we learned. Here's what riders are doing with this information. It matters to them. It doesn't matter to them. We hope that it can make all of your platforms better. And so it's essentially giving us access to what would normally be proprietary information because we have that partnership with the private sector. Also, I had a discussion yesterday, Director Conklin and I had a discussion with WMATA yesterday. And they seem very willing to partner with us on this so that we have been looking within the restrictions. Keep in mind that the application was done at a different time in COVID, where, knowledge about how things are transmitted and levels of concern over crowding are always in flux and changing. But to get the most value out of this federal funding opportunity, we can also push in the Metrobus data into this app so that when you open the app, it doesn't have to just the ride-on. They can pull in any public transit information into it so that we were speaking with WMATA yesterday about having them tell us questions they want to know about how people in Montgomery County use Metrobus, so that we can use their questions to also inform this research and hopefully come out of it answering questions they have, we have, and all working together more effectively.
So you're able to get the rider's data, essentially, the rider side data from the users of the app.
Anonymized.
And by better understanding rider behavior in response to crowding and other issues, I think maybe that you'll work into it. You know, you'll be able to better leverage technology generally for the bus system. And in order to do that, how many riders have to use the app? You know, what are you estimating as far as take up of the app? And is it only this app, that the one that you will, you know, that gets built through this, that will be able to give you that data back? Or, you know, what adoption do you have to have for this to succeed?
I will let Dan Hibbert speak to that, but before he responds, I'd like to share that we don't, if you go into an app store on your phone, there's no ride-on app. We have a mobile web application that has a trip planning function, but if you are just a regular person out there and pick up your phone and are curious about ride-on buses and type in ride-on, no traditional app is going to come up. So this will be very easy to find, and we intend to heavily promote it. I think you'll see that over about $50,000 of the grant is towards marketing of this app. So we have resources to get the word out. I cannot speak to how many adopters we need to use, but what I've heard from Mr. Hibbert is that there is a real hunger for this better access to information from our riders.
So you're going to be able to white label a ride-on app through this?
Yes.
So at some point in the past, you had decided not to have an app because they break, and you had wanted to just publish the data into the feeds and let the industry leading apps, you know, carry that information. You'll continue to do that, but now you would have a ride-on app that would integrate real-time arrival and everything. Will it also have WMATA data into it?
What is this ride-on app that I have that I use regularly? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
I have the same question.
that? Right.
It's a mobile enabled website.
Is Terry Heron with us today, or Dan, do you want to answer that?
Sure. I'm not sure if Terry's with us, but that is a mobile. And actually, Councilmember Herker was spot on. That it's a mobile-based app. What it does is it's using the internet as its base. While it appears to be an app for most users, it's a mobile web-based app, so that the data that we can update it and make it current versus a standard app, you're going through an app function. What we're looking for with this Move It partnership is to allow us to create a true app, a white label app that gives not only the on-time, real-time function, but also gives us customer loading as well as trip planning functions. So it helps us to take it to the next level. We like the real-time app that we have now because for someone at home, they can just basically tap into it and see when the bus will arrive. Well, that's great, but realistically, we need to take our application to the next step. And that's what this grant, and quite frankly, the FTA looks at this as a research grant, and they believe that we have the technology and the skill set here to kind of take it to the next level. Their hope is that we can demonstrate that this makes sense and that it can use nationwide. I'm excited about WMATA's partnership as well, because realistically, as we want to get more customers back on the buses, and one of the concerns we've heard is people is crowding. Is crowding going to be an issue? Well, let's look at that. I look at it as an operational guy. I also as well, can I improve my on-time performance by getting more service out there for when we have overcrowding situations? So there's multiple effects and benefits that can come to ride-on at a relatively lower cost. I think we have an opportunity here that we think the FTA thinks is a good idea.
So in order, customers will, you'll only get the data from those who use the Ride On app. So you're going to need some group of people to download the Ride On app, the new Ride On app that's going to come out. And will it integrate WMATA?
Yes, the intention, the grant application did not specifically include that, but my understanding is that it is within the constraints of the grant for us to choose which data we want to be integrated into it. I just pulled up my phone as well. So if you just go to the App Store, nothing, if you type in Ride On, right now, nothing comes up. You have to go through multiple other steps. But again, there's no obligation to continue with having a white label app, but the concept would be that we hope that riders love it and that it is better than what is available to them today, and that we would really promote it as, you know, essentially, if you use this app, it helps us to learn and to serve you better. This app,
will our access to that data continue after this trial period, or is it only for, a certain set period of time?
It's for the set period of time, and the web-enabled app that Councilmember Glass showed would live in parallel to what this grant is providing. So you wouldn't lose access to that if you're a user of that platform. But if you wanted to switch to this other one, and we would encourage people to use it while it's available, you would be able to.
It would live in parallel to this? I mean, yeah, we shouldn't have users lose access to it, but so we'd have competing apps, and we'd have a transition period where we'd be trying to encourage users, were we to go with Move It indefinitely, to migrate over to Move It?
If we decided to go indefinitely, but nobody's making that decision now. So we wouldn't take something away from our customers in the interim.
I'm so confused by this. This is the second time. Who's here from DTS? Who can speak to the functionality of the app? Anyone? No.
Oh,
okay.
I don't think DTS hasn't had a role in this.
Why not? Isn't this what we pay them for?
Well, I mean, the Ride On app is maintained by our technology staff in transit. And it's the mobile interface for a website. The data is not living on your phone. It's living on the internet, and you essentially have a bookmark to that website on your phone that looks like.
I understand that, but I thought we relied on DTS to give us advice in matters like this, but I guess I'm wrong. So Dan, can you tell us about the federal grant? I understand we don't want to lose the federal grant opportunity. What's the timeline? What are the requirements? I remember asking this last time. They're not going to move it per se. That we go with a competent provider, right? A solution to gather data from our riders. What's the timeline on identifying one of those?
Well, we identified Move It as our partner. And
I know you. That's why we're here. I know, but what's the timeline in the grant after the grant proposal for are available?
We're actually, the timeline is because we got the grant almost a year and a half ago, and quite frankly, the federal government is saying, "Where are you with processing of getting this grant up and running?" And we've explained to them that we are in the process of getting the information out so people understand the purpose of the grant and our efforts. I think we've probably been less than 6 months, I think, because the federal government will move on if we're not able to process the grant.
No, fair enough. Right. I don't want to lose the grant either. So why did we start talking about this just recently if you've had the grant for, what did you say, a year and a half?
There was, quite frankly, a delay with our friends at the FTA due to the pandemic, and things were everything was pushed back. And by the time we were able, that's just basically what's functionally happened within the administration.
And I'll offer that in the last discussion of this item with this group, there were questions about why we were working with one provider, and Transit has provided clarification to us that actually strengthens your application. The FTA is not looking to just support transit providers. They're looking to develop research and develop the tech industry as well. So by going to them with a partner, that is what they prefer in terms of looking competitive as an applicant, as knowing that you can theoretically hit the ground running.
I appreciate that. Right. This is a public-private thing. And on the private side, Move It is like a pre-qualified solution from the FTA perspective?
Yes.
Okay, great. Which other solutions are out there that are that meet the same test, that are pre-qualified from an FTA perspective.
You mean other consulting firms or agencies? I mean, there are
other technology solutions.
Well, the fundamental is we're creating an application.
I know. Dan, let me say this a different way. I'm absolutely willing to stipulate that there's value in this contractor that you've chosen, and I agree that we should have an app, not just a mobile-enabled website. That would be an enhancement for our writers. That would be great. I appreciate that WMATA wants to play ball with us using this solution. I'm not sure what the answer is to a question about whether WMATA would be willing to use another solution as well. And obviously WMATA will be under different leadership next year. I bet there's more than one app in this space. We've had an awful lot of sole source contracts in the last 3 years. And my constituents ask me all the time why there's so many sole source contracts that are not put out for bid. And why we're not, why we don't take advantage of our local contractors more and our Montgomery County contractors more. And I don't know the answer to that because there are so many sole source contracts. So I'm asking, my concern is more about the approach. I don't want to lose the federal funding opportunity. I want to use the funds and not have to give them back. I imagine there's more than one solution in this space. I'm wondering why we didn't do this earlier if you've had the funds for a while, and why you wouldn't have done like an RFI to assess what technology solutions are out there, what's the whole waterfront of companies that could address this and meet our requirements without choosing. Why was Move It chosen? Because I know I'll go to a civic association or an HOA and they'll say, what's so special about Move It? Does Move It's brother work in DOT or in the county exec's office or something? I won't have an answer for that. I don't think that's the case, but I will get that question all the time. I get that question frequently because there's so many sole source contracts that go around our normal, open, transparent procurement process. And that's what I'm trying to, I want to be in a position, I bet my colleagues do too, to answer that question.
Well, the FTA looks at communities and agencies to partner up, and Move It is a well-known vendor of these types of situations. The FTA looks at who you're partnering with and does they have the resources and the capabilities to create an application that will be transferable nationwide. And
Sure.
Move It has applications across the country, and I think worldwide, quite frankly. And so when the FTA saw that, okay, you're partnering with Move It, because we had heard of Move It, and they said they'd be more than willing to step up and work with us to develop this.
I got nothing against Move It. Move It sounds great. Question is,
Sure.
why not do an RFI, put it out openly, and see who else competes with Move It that might do a better job or offer a better price for the exact same functionality?
That certainly could have been a step we could have done, but quite frankly, when the grant application process comes about and you have a limited time frame to respond to it, you give your best shot with what you think makes the most sense to create an application that will benefit our customers.
Yeah,
Because
I would.
realistically, the time frame to put an RFI out it's a great idea, but we would certainly not be able to meet the deadlines that the FTA sets for creating a grant application that competes with others across the country, which was what we did. We actually competed across the country to get this research grant, and the FDA said, okay, this makes sense. You put all the dots together. Let's move forward.
Sure,
Hunker, if I could
the outcome
give you a
matters
little
and
bit.
the process matters too. And I just want to be able to defend both since we're here as decision makers and we'll be criticized for almost whatever we do. It might be a great outcome, but if people say we got that because you had some preferred vendor, I won't know how to answer that question.
If I could give you a little bit more information, when we did the dispatch software for the Flex service, there was competition for that, and that was a similar model, but that was not done through a grant. So the grant application period really drove the selection of the vendor here, and there's no commitment beyond the period of this grant to us to continue to work with that vendor. So if we have a mixed experience or we think there's better value in the marketplace, we certainly can compete if we want to continue to have this type of app capability beyond what is maintainable in-house, which is what you have now. We're able to do that. And the data feed will continue to be available to all providers of this type of app. So we're not limiting access to the information to move it. So Hannah can continue to use the transit app. And when this information feed is available, it will be there. So I don't think we're really creating a competitive advantage for moving forward, because there are lots of platforms that provide this information.
And I'll add that our intention, as I mentioned earlier, is to actually learn from this and share it with all apps out there so we can help make all apps better. So it actually, the goal is, one of the end goals of this is to share helpful information publicly to make any app that's out there able to improve their services to their users.
To be clear, you'll be able to share the user information that is in our possession and the survey results and things like that, but not any of the software. This isn't like an open source thing that we'll be able to share with some other platform, right?
Correct. This is not an open source software, but we will be able to, the goal is to look at how it is used and how people find it useful, and not just to survey, but to do analytics of all of the data that they are receiving to share with others, to essentially open source learning in this case, not just putting out open source data, but putting out our open source learning of what riders want and need in the app, instead of just these apps all proprietary in a proprietary way competing with each other.
What platform does DC use for this purpose?
DC, do you mean Metrobus, or I mean, DC has the circulator. I don't know if they have a particular app. I know Metrobus does not, they do not have an app right now. They just put out their data and let apps use it, which is one reason why it makes sense for them. Well, first of all, they can't prevent us from accessing their data and putting it into this app, but that's one reason why they're supportive of partnering with us in terms of helping us to get more helpful information out of this.
So that's WMATA. DC, you're not aware of an app that they have. Prince George's and the Bus, Northern Virginia. Ideally, it would be great if we had, a regional solution, right, in this space.
Absolutely.
Right.
Agreed.
Well, there are. Most of the commercial apps present the data from all the providers.
Mm-hmm. We are taking a look. So the idea would be to not just be working in a vacuum on this app. The idea would be that it actually gives us the opportunity to look at the apps that are all being used to inform this effort. And really, because part of our match is the staff time working on this, it is an opportunity for us to take the time to be thoughtful and look at what's going on around us, but have this consultant support to make use of what we're seeing and the questions that we have.
But so, and I'm not an expert in the space at all. What are the other commercial platforms that you're talking about, Chris, that are
well, like Hannah mentioned, the most significant competitor is the transit app, which these are all available. You can get right on information and move it now. It's not going to be new to them to get the information. And transit app is the same way. You can go in there and get right on trip planning. Google Maps has transit trip planning. So there's a variety. Those are just three that I use. Those come to mind is the commercial
Google Maps for sure. But so couldn't you partner with one of those other platforms conceivably?
Conceivably, but again, this application
and still take advantage of this federal grant. I mean,
right.
We wouldn't lose the federal money.
We would.
No, we would. This grant was submitted as a partnership with Move It, so it would avoid the approach that's taken. And, for the council members' benefit, this is not the most significant initiative we have going on. If you have significant concern with moving forward, we can choose not to move forward, and that's a reasonable outcome. But we do think there's value from making this effort.
I'd rather not lose the money, but I'm going to be left with a question now that I guess is water under the bridge. Why did you partner with Move It in the first place rather than any of the other platforms that offer the same?
Well, I think in Mr. Hibbert's correspondence back to the committee, he described that the transit division did a scan of what commercial providers were available. Move It is one of the most highly regarded in the space internationally. And they made an inquiry to Move It, and Move It wanted to partner. So that was the nature of the application. So there was some evaluation, but it was not a formal procurement type process, nor are we directly getting service from Move It that we don't already get. What we're getting is the FTA and the research component through this grant. Move It's already providing this information for our customers.
Okay. I wish we weren't put in this position where we're sort of forced to accept your choice without any consultation and then just turn down money if we don't accept your choice and have a hard time explaining it. But okay. Colleagues?
Yeah, so I appreciate all the questions, Mr. Chair. And the only outstanding question I have is whether or not this, well, so I know that this is for this contract, but does this lock us into any additional annual recurring costs?
Yeah, the estimate from DOT was that the annual cost after the grant is completed is about $250,000 in that range. I'm not sure how much it would be, but something like that. But that to the degree that other local providers, Metro, WMATA, the bus, Fairfax Connector, whatever, decides to take part in that app, then they would share in the cost of that maintenance. So that would be less that Montgomery County would have to put up. But that's yet to be determined, obviously.
Okay, and then the way it was described, and Ms. Henn, I appreciate your thorough response to my initial question. I was under the impression that it was open source, to the chair's point, so that other app developers and engaged residents, there are a number of apps that people have developed at their own, on their own time, using all the open source data. But so why can this not be open source for the greater benefit?
As a non-tech expert, I don't know that. My understanding is that it is the way that their business model is set, but I don't know if Mr. Hibbert or Director Conklin can speak to that.
Well, I can only speak to my understanding, and I am also not a tech expert, but the data feeds that support the app are open source and any provider can use them. But the actual interface that the user uses is not.
Right. And so the question, the heart of that question is, I understand now through this good conversation why the information attained from the app is important to improving the system. And I think that is our shared goal. But as we continue toward that goal, we want that information to be used by as many people as possible. So it sounds like that information will be available to everybody, but the app itself is proprietary, right?
That is my understanding, yes.
And so I'll say now at the end of my thoughts for this conversation, I still remain a skeptic as to how users will interface with this, given the various choices that are out there. But through this conversation, you have shared with me the greater public benefit of the information that will be ascertained by the app. And for that reason, I'll support this and make sure that we have updates to see how this information is informing our transit network so that it can continue doing what it's designed to do, and that's get people to their jobs, get them to school, get them to wherever they need in a safe and efficient manner. So I'll support this.
Maria?
I also support it. Let's time to move on.
Okay. Well, so I guess that is approved without objection. I would love in the future more notice about future partnerships like this, so we can explain your methodology going forward.
Chair Hooker, I'll offer this to you because we will have these grant opportunities in the future. We've had them in the past where we have to identify a vendor. when we submit this information to you in the future, we'll include a screening report about how we developed the partnership idea. We will never have the time to complete a formal procurement type activity in the grant timelines that we're given, but we're happy to give you information about the landscape of providers and how we selected the partner we selected for these.
That would be helpful. I don't expect a full hearing or something on this, but I want to be able to answer questions from constituents and other stakeholders that, you know, are inevitably going to come to me in 2 weeks and say, didn't you know about us? We do a way better job than Move It. And I won't know what to say.
Right. But no, I appreciate that.
Things that like that happen a lot. Okay.
I just wanted to say that, especially with the infrastructure bill, it's likely that there are going to be more of these and we're going to be really sprinting after them. So I'm also thinking about what we can do in advance preparation for them. We will go back and discuss whether we can, in anticipation, put out RFIs. But yes, within the framework of a grant, we won't be able to, but perhaps we can see what we can do in advance in anticipation of these funds.
Right. I'm not trying to slow you down at all. I've been, a critic, I think, of multiple administrations that I have felt like we leave money on the table, both federally and in Annapolis. And the last thing I want to do is preclude you from taking advantage of any opportunities. But if you can even just, CC us on some memos internally or something. So, and the assessment that Mr. Conklin mentioned would be really helpful, just so we know how to answer questions like this, and future hearings will be easier. Okay, cool.
Last thing, just to clarify, the committee's recommending approval of the appropriation, but minus the $108,550 for in-kind contributions, because that's already budgeted. So the supplemental would be for not $720,300, but for $611,750. But still for $450,000 federal aid, but $161,750 in mass transit funds, not $270,300. Okay. All right.
Yep. Okay. Colleagues, fine.
All right. Next item. Item 2 is the executive back in early November sent over a resolution that would reduce or simplify many of the fees paid by taxi cab drivers and operators. The idea is to try to make the taxi industry more solvent. As you know, taxi service as well as taxi ridership is way down, not just from the pandemic, but prior to that because of Uber and Lyft and the other TNCs. And it used to be that back before 2010, these fees paid for the regulatory authority the county uses. But since then, because of Uber and Lyft, and most recently because of the pandemic, we're only collecting a fraction of that funds. This would actually reduce it further because the fees that we've had really go back to a long time ago before the TNC came up.
4 times, yes.
And one of the things I asked DOT to do is to prepare the table, which is on page 3 of the packet, which compares the existing rates and the proposed rates to those currently being charged in Prince George's County, Arlington County, Fairfax County, and DC. And in most cases, the rates they're proposing now are comparable. They're not exact because they're all different to some degree, but they're pretty comparable to these other jurisdictions where currently they're much higher. The one exception is the fee for a new PVL put in service. Even though the execs recommending reducing it by half from 5,000 to 2,500, it's still way bigger than other jurisdictions where some have charged 0. But DOT says we're not going to be issuing any PVLs the next few years anyway, probably. So that's sort of a moot point.
Why is there that assumption?
Because, well, let DOT talk about it. But basically,
the drivers want to go work for Uber first.
Sorry? Yeah.
Why?
There are more PVLs out there than there are actually drivers out there. And so the demand for drivers is not there.
Okay.
Most of the testimony of the public hearing was in support of this. Peter Ibeck said it's the first step. He'd like to see these actually even lower. And then he had testimony basically saying that the fee to transfer a PVL from one to another is a little under $4,000. That ought to be eliminated or reduced. What DOT points out is that under the reg that the execs put out, that if a transfer is done from a non-wheelchair accessible vehicle to a wheelchair accessible vehicle, that $3,995 is reimbursed. So it's a powerful incentive to trade out just a regular vehicle for a wheelchair accessible vehicle, which is one of the things that you all are going to talk about with the HHS committee when we meet in mid-February on ways to increase the availability of wheelchair accessible vehicles and use of the transportation services fund. So bottom line is I'm recommending approval with the executives recommend.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Orland. Your chart comparing our fees to our competitor jurisdictions is helpful. Do you have any idea, and sorry if I missed this, but which of these have updated their fees for the new environment, both the Uber Lyft environment and the post-COVID environment?
No, I do not. I don't know when they've last changed fees.
We still have a structure that's based on a world that doesn't exist anymore and isn't coming back. So it's only sort of helpful in that context. I wouldn't be surprised if lots of these jurisdictions are dropping their fees in the future to incentivize to create a market for more drivers.
Right.
Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. I was glad to see that the transfer fee is proposed to be eliminated for wheelchair accessible vehicles. Mm-hmm. What I wanted to understand is, what about eliminating them for new wheelchair accessible vehicles? Like it's not a transfer. What kind of dynamic does that create? If you wanted to start driving for the first time and you wanted to drive using a wheelchair accessible vehicle, which I think might cost a little bit more, do you have easy access to a transferred PVL, or would you have to go get a new PVL? Like there's some kind of market at work here. Can you explain this to me?
Mr. Harris or Mr. Oji, feel free to respond.
Yeah.
Hello, Walt.
It would be a peer-to-peer market. You'll be interested to know that most fees that are associated with operating a wheelchair accessible vehicle are reimbursed by the Transportation Services Improvement Fund. So if you are interested in becoming a first-time driver who drives a wheelchair accessible vehicle, the majority of funds associated with that are reimbursed.
Okay, got it. Okay, that satisfies my question. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just jump in and say I support this too, and quite frankly, where we have industries where there are market disruptions, we need to accommodate that and try and level the playing field wherever we can, and I think that's what this attempts to do. So I'll support it.
Thank you both. I've met with a lot of the providers. I am supportive of the spirit of things. This is sort of long overdue, and we need to adapt to the new world we're living in. We don't have nearly enough drivers, and we want to create, additional incentives to have more in the future. To me, I'm sympathetic to the requests we have to lower the fees. A number of them, even further. I think the initial driver application fee obviously makes sense at zero, but I would propose lowering the license renewal fee. $250 is still a lot. These drivers are hanging on by a thread, the ones we have, and many that I spoke to have trouble paying their rent and their electric bill. So to me, I know for a lot of them, to even us, $250 is a significant check to write, and this is to keep people in an industry that we want them to stay in and not leave. And we've been hemorrhaging too many of our drivers. So to me, I would either eliminate that or propose it at something like $50, not $250, because I think the revenue for DOT is sort of marginal at this, but it's a big deal to a driver who's making $25,000, $30,000 a year.
Mr. Harris, I don't know if you have some background or rationale for the fee levels that are recommended. That would be useful to share for the committee.
So we basically wanted to make these fees comparable with other jurisdictions, and these fees were agreed upon by the Taxi Cab Services Commission. I think that was kind of the rationale. And I'll just also say that, as I mentioned earlier, many of the fees for driving a wheelchair accessible vehicle are reimbursed. The PVL fee is one of those fees. So if you drive a wheelchair accessible vehicle, that fee is reimbursed to you.
I appreciate that, but most of our vehicles are not wheelchair accessible, and I wish they were. And do you know the answer to my previous question about how many other jurisdictions have updated their fees?
So that number is, it varies, of course. I believe Arlington recently did theirs in 2016. I don't believe only Washington, D.C., I think, had their fees impacted, had done work to impact their fees as of late. Prince George's indicated that they may, once they begin to normalize operations, they may look at, they may revisit looking at fees, but to this point they have not.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, this is a competitive market, like many things, and I've spoken to many constituents who have, called for a cab, seniors, disabled individuals, called for a cab and have been waiting for hours and hours, and then have finally given up on. They've had to cancel their doctor appointment. They've had to pay the fee because they had to cancel their doctor appointment, things like that. They can't get to the pharmacy to get their medicine. It doesn't. What we have is broken, the system. And to me, I wouldn't quibble over $100 here or there. I would think we would want to try to incentivize every driver that's now driving for DC or Prince George's. I'd like them to be driving for Montgomery as well, ideally. So, to me, I would get rid of most of these, but I would just suggest like the license renewal fee is more appropriately at $50, not $250. I would the application is still $100. That's we're not going to buy anything at DOT land for the $100 we're getting, but I know that's not a lot of money to us, but it's a lot of money to them. And the new license at $2,500, I would certainly lower to something like, I don't know, $250 or $500, because many of us, if I wanted to be a taxi driver, I'm not sure I have $2,500 just to write to get my but we want to take people that are currently out of work or working at a low level, a low paying job, and incentivize them to be a driver at this point, don't we? They already are incurring a lot of costs for the vehicle and the gas and everything else. I'm not sure why we want to deter anybody by having a high fee, regardless of how it compares to other jurisdictions. We want all the drivers we can get at this point. Is that not true?
It is true in some ways. We want to incentivize the transition to the wheelchair accessible vehicles, which, as Mr. Harris has mentioned, many of these fees are then reimbursed from the fund in order to do that. So there's a preference among our drivers to drive the sedan vehicles and not have the complications of the wheelchair accessible trips.
I totally appreciate that, Chris, but how the drivers I've talked to, I wish every vehicle on the street were in the future. I aspire to live in a world where every vehicle out there is wheelchair accessible, just like every sidewalk is and every elevator is and everything, every building is and everything else. We're not in that world right now. We still have buildings where you have to walk up the stairs because they were grandfathered in, and we still have taxis that are not wheelchair accessible. In the meantime, do you have user data that tells us what percentage of our riders need a wheelchair accessible vehicles and which ones don't? I imagine the majority don't, correct?
I'm pretty sure we have that data, but
we can provide that data. We don't have it on hand, but we can provide it.
You happen to know, Walt?
We can provide that data in the future.
But I'm right? There are people who can walk, who can get in a regular sedan cab, who are still, right now, in the world we've created, right in our regulatory structure here, they're still waiting. They're still calling a cab and nobody's coming.
Correct.
So we got to get out of that business. We can't create to me, this is Montgomery County after all. We can't create the expectation that, for our elderly and our disabled individuals, that you can call a cab and nobody shows up, whether it's a sedan or a wheelchair accessible vehicle. We have a broken system as far as I can tell. I've heard so many complaints, both from constituents and from drivers. So, I mean, to me, I would get rid of like all of these fees and make everything free and incentivize people to become a driver. But I would certainly propose lowering like the new license fee to $250 or $500 and the renewal fee down to $25 or $50 because we want as many drivers as we can get. Hans.
Thanks for the points you're making. First of all, there's some timeliness with this. The other issue I want to raise here is fleet transition. We talked about that a bit. I raised that last time. How could that be factored in here? Waiving fees for drivers who are willing to invest in a plug-in electric or another zero emissions vehicle or something like that. So what, A, can you just share the timeliness here? And B, could you, if we have a little time, could you consider a framework that would incentivize the fleet to transition in two ways? First, for wheelchair, as we've got accessible, and secondly, for clean vehicles.
I'm glad you raised that point because I know we rushed through the extension of the age at the end of the year to avoid putting a bunch of vehicles out of service. And at the same time, this fall, we have been through a process with several boards and commissions to look at ways to deploy the funds in the Transportation Service Improvement Fund to achieve these objectives. So I think I don't have an answer for you today on that, but I think that is an idea that could be put into that framework to address the additional strain we will have put on the taxi operators if we go back to the 8-year life, and to encourage the transition both to wheelchair vehicle and electric vehicle. Those are issues that I think are going to require some more work based on the feedback we have from the various boards and commissions, and the issue with the ability of the auto industry to deliver these vehicles right now. And the fund can help with that. So I think that in February, I guess I'm not fully up to speed on what you're planning to discuss with HHS, but we can walk through some of those recommendations and how we can achieve some of those objectives. To Mr. Hucker's point, I don't think there is any magic to the specific dollar values that are recommended in here, aside from them representing the work that the department did with the commission on what were reasonable changes from what the previous fee structure is. But it's certainly worth revisiting this fee structure in the near future as well, and understanding the relationship between how some of these fees are compensated from the fund or not, therefore their impact on somebody's ability to enter this industry. And you're absolutely right that we are suffering from a shortage of available drivers and willingness of some of those drivers to work at the times when the public needs these trips. So some other ideas that have been developed are to further incentivize trips later in the day where there's not as much taxi service available and things like that. So we've been doing a lot of work to understand these issues with the commission and other boards and committees in the fall, and need to bring all of that forward to you. But we wanted to get this proposal, again, we put this forward back at the end of last year before the committee, because we think this provides some immediate relief and it doesn't prevent us from doing more in that fuller conversation.
A technical point, the way the regime works is that the fees wouldn't be waived per se. What would happen is that DOT would reimburse the operator or the individual for the amount, and that's handled through the executive reg. So this is the kind of thing which wouldn't necessarily come before the council for approval, but it would be something certainly the DOT would could have a discussion with the council first before they act on something.
Right. And remind us the deadline that we're facing here before any drivers lose their licenses.
There's no deadline like that associated with this decision. That was with the decision that was made at the end of December.
Oh, we did separate those two issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, if we're not facing a big deadline, I don't know how my colleagues feel. I'm happy to propose to go through the chart and propose 5 or 6 lower fees than these 6 as a sort of counter proposal after the consultation I've had with a lot of drivers and some companies that have commented on the industry and the difficulty to find drivers. I hear you what you're saying, Chris, about there's no magic number, but $2,500 is still a lot of money for somebody who, maybe used to drive a bus, is now working at 7-Eleven or lost their job or whatever, and they're thinking of driving a cab. It's a considerable amount of money for almost anybody. So if we want to incentivize this industry, I just think we need fees that reflect that. And I'd suggest we just, push a decision on this unless we feel a need to make a decision today to push it off to the next meeting, and I can circulate, a proposal or something, but and work with the department.
Councilmember Hooker, may I make a quick point? With regard to the application for an individual passenger vehicle license and the new passenger vehicle license in service, the 100 and the 2,500 feet that you're discussing, that is charged only when the county does an offering of new PVLs. So if you can think about it like the lottery,
how soon do you think that will be?
Not in the near or midterm future. Our hope is that we get to a place where it happens again, but the secondary market for PVLs is abundant. How many
are we talking about are out there on that?
Several hundred. I think that, and there's an active kind of peer-to-peer market for these PVLs. So I wouldn't say short to midterm, definitely not. Much further down the road.
May I just interject? If we make it free, then we eliminate the secondary market. Essentially,
yeah.
Right?
The trouble is we
value. So it's
tricky. We devalue the investment people have already made in their PVLs. It's like if we were giving out houses for free, my house is worth less and yours is too.
That's where it's tricky.
Right. I mean, certainly for renewals,
drivers who borrowed money, and so on and so forth. So those equities are tricky to understand.
The drivers I've spoken to, though, just for renewals, they would prefer a much lower thing than 250.
Right.
I just think this isn't fully baked yet, and it would be easy to come back and kick something around. We also, it'd be nice to have a work session with some of the driver representatives and companies here, so we could hear from.
Is the renewal an annual, like January thing, or is it a rolling thing? Like if we wait a month, does that mean all 2022 renewals are going to be at the higher rate, or not a concern?
It would be rolling.
It's rolling.
Yeah, that was one of the urgencies for actually doing this, because there's every month there's folks who are coming up for renewal, and it's a matter of what they would be paying at the time. The other thing to remember is this is a resolution like the other transportation fees resolution, where the exec has to sign it as well. So it's something that both the council and the exec will have to agree to. I don't know. Yeah. So, Mr. Hucker, what I just actually respectfully, especially with what was saying about the application for the PVL and the taxi cab PVLs transfers, that just concentrate on the PVL renewal fee and make a recommendation right now, whether it's 50 or 100 or 25 or 0, and see where your colleagues are, and make that the recommendation, and see if Chris can probably say if that's okay or not for the department. And then you can still come back to it, but you can provide some kind of relief to drivers immediately.
Sure. Well, the renewal fee, I'd propose it at 50.
Okay.
Any colleagues?
That sounds fine.
Any objection? Right.
I don't think there's any problem with that recommendation. I mean, the fiscal impacts are not going to change dramatically based on that.
Right. No
question. Am I missing any administrative feature of that, Walt, just before they conclude?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I don't think changing the 250 to 50 creates any hardship other than the impact to revenue, which is...
We'll make it up to you. Don't worry.
Yes, correct.
This is peanuts in the DOT budget. And
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something we were missing that wasn't related to the revenue on that item.
Right. Yeah. We wish we lived in a world where this was a big cost and we had so many drivers. This is going to cost us a lot. I think Peter Ivick is here and wanted to say something on this discussion. Can we patch him in from the Taxi Drivers Union that this committee helped create? Peter?
Am I on?
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
are.
are.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for letting me in.
Sure.
I've been listening to the discussions, and I'm with the position taken by Councilman Tucker. The drivers, we lack drivers. Every one of you knows that right by now. We lack drivers. We need to bring them back. And drivers are ready to come back because they are not happy with Uber anymore. Mm-hmm. But the fees is driving them crazy. They don't want to, come in and spend 2,005 or even 500. But we are telling them that if the fees can be reduced to 500 initial fee, it will be okay if they can manage to pay that. But the renewal fees, if renewal fee is lower than, maybe $50 or $100, you'll be okay with them.
We just agreed to lower I don't know if you heard us, Peter, we just agreed to lower the renewal fee to 50.
Okay, all right.
Your position is we need to lower the new cab license fee as well?
Yeah, the new cab license fee should not go more than $500.
Because that's a disincentive for new drivers to come back.
At least for now.
Well, the department's point was there's not PVLs available right now because they're available. They're not putting new ones out to auction, and they're all available on the secondary market. Is that your understanding?
Because they have not gone after those people who have decided not to drive anymore. Some people are holding the PVL, and the cars are not on the road. So, of course, there will be shortage of PVL because people they have them, they are not driving, they're not using it, they're just sitting on the PVLs. There is no drivers. Many cars are parked. So those PVLs are not working. So if
people are, when you say hoarding them, people are not willing to sell the PVLs they have because they think they'll be more valuable later?
They think they'll be valuable. They think it will, yes.
Just like stocks or any other commodity. Okay.
Exactly.
And what would be the impact? What would be the impact if we lowered the new taxi cab license fee to $500?
Well, the impact will be that many drivers will come, even if they want to buy from those people who don't want to drive taxi anymore or operate any taxi. Those drivers can buy it from them.
Okay.
But when they buy it, though, unless, as it is now, as I understand now, if they buy a sedan PVL, DOT may not let them put it on sedan. If you transfer it, then it's free. If you don't transfer it,
right, then
it's going to be higher, 3,000 or 2,005, whatever they charge, 5,000 to transfer.
That's where, I don't understand the advantage in waiting. If we lower the fee now and nobody takes advantage of it because they're cheaper on the secondary market, well, we don't lose any money, and we don't sell any new licenses. But if in fact a $500 license is an incentive and we can get some more drivers back into the county and picking up people that are now calling a cab and nobody's coming, which is exactly what I think need to avoid at all costs. Exactly. Even if we get 10 more drivers, why wouldn't we want to do that?
Exactly. I agree with that.
I think you're raising a theoretical objection because it precludes us from doing something in the future. And this might work, it might not. I can't prove it's going to work, but I don't see the harm in lowering it right now.
Yeah, we lower it right now, at least for, gradually it can be, the value can be raised gradually. But right now we're in a dilemma that
it's an emergency.
We need to bring drivers in at all costs.
Well, Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand the issue to be is that there are sufficient licenses and vehicles available.
Correct.
The question is people being willing to use them.
Correct. Yes.
But every individual is different, right? I mean, many drivers have a second job for sure, right? And the question is, do they go to work as a taxi driver, or do they go to work as something that might be more lucrative? And if we have more drivers because we've made licenses more available, then aren't there, at a period of high unemployment still right now, over 6% in Montgomery County, why wouldn't we want on any given day more drivers available to somebody who's going to call your number and be told a cab is coming, and then right now too often somebody doesn't show up? Why wouldn't we want to avoid that possibility?
Unfortunately, and this may not be directly to your point, one of the things that we've learned somewhat anecdotally is that a lot of drivers will hit a dollar threshold and then kind of, knock off for the day, basically. So we hear that a lot of individuals who are disabled, community stakeholders have brought to our attention that there's a complete dearth of service, especially in, between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. And
isn't that an argument to have more drivers? I mean, drivers
sure,
are
that's an argument to have more drivers,
right? Like,
but
it's a great second job. It's flexible. You can do it whenever you want.
So correct. But what I'm saying is that many drivers may still knock off once they hit a certain dollar amount.
I'm not saying it's a panacea.
Sure.
I'm saying it's got to be either neutral to net benefit, but I don't see any downside to making more medallions available because they're at a lower cost.
I think it seems to me that we are mixing up the vehicle license and the license for the driver.
Okay.
My understanding, and again, I'm happy to be corrected by staff, is that we have ample vehicle licenses in circulation and service. The challenge is the driver's willingness and availability to make use of those vehicles and licenses.
Correct.
Okay. So, Peter, do you have anything to say about that? You still there?
Hello.
Hi. Yeah. Would lowering the new taxi cab license fee? Would lowering the new taxi cab license fee actually help us get more drivers?
Yes. And then Harris, I heard him talking about when drivers hit their target amount of money for the day, they knock off. That's a lie. I don't know where you get that suggestion from. Drivers are sitting 3-4 hours without getting a job. A lot of drivers and we are the lowest weekly fee company.
Yeah,
and
right.
we having problems having our drivers pay us because they didn't make the money.
I don't understand the reluctance to make bold changes here. We're circling the drain. We're in a death cycle. You have drivers waiting for a call that aren't making any money, and you have passengers who call who aren't getting picked up by a driver. The economics just don't work. So I don't know why we wouldn't want do everything we can to get more drivers to be willing to do it every hour of the day, and then let the market sort it out.
And then I've also heard about drivers complain about cost of gas.
Yeah,
somebody in Silver Spring, you give him job in Germantown. Oh man, that's too far away. I don't have enough gas.
So you need more drivers in Germantown.
So we need drivers everywhere.
Right. Okay, colleagues, how do you feel about this? I would move to lower. I can't make a motion, but I would prefer to lower the new license fee from $2,500 as the proposal to $500 or $250, so we can get more drivers. Because the cost to DOT is marginal, but we should do everything. We should be paying drivers to sign up to do this rather than charging them, in my view. Hans?
I was just going to say, is this an annual fee schedule that we approve? We could view such a thing as a emergency measure, without the assumption that it would continue in perpetuity. I'm generally sympathetic here. I am still haunted by drivers that I've met who are, indebted, partly because of the cost of their PVLs from years ago. Maybe that's less of an issue today. I don't know why these drivers aren't. I mean, they're not valuable. That's why they can't sell them, I guess. No, you would think that someone would be willing to sell a PVL now for $500. And I don't know why they aren't, but I would be fine with creating a $500 insurance cost for the year, and if it works, to get new drivers in, I think that's great. And as Peter is saying, if we can rebound the industry generally, then those other PVLs might begin to regain some value. I don't know what's possible, but
the 2,500, Mr. Rimmer, the 2,500 fee, the new tax cap passenger vehicle license, the one-time fee. It's for entering it. The annual that you agree to, reducing to 250 is to renew the license.
To Hans's point, that the 500 would stay 500. We don't review it annually. We review whenever we want to review, right?
That's right.
Right. We could review it next month if we wanted to.
Yeah, but the 2,500 initial fee is still, at this time, it's like a pulling tooth. You can't get any driver, not even
Peter?
people who drive over. Yes.
So when you're trying to recruit somebody, don't you have drivers that own PVLs that are not driving, and why don't they want to sell their PVL for $500 or something?
Some of them, some people, some private owners had called me to give me the PVL to give to anybody who wants to put it on the road, and don't pay them anything at this time until the business rebounds. But nobody even want to take a free PVL.
Because that person also has to have a car. There's other barriers, right?
I've two drivers I know of recent have just taken their plate off the taxi plate, license plate, the state license plate, took it off their car and repainted their car for their private use at home. But they still have their PVLs.
So at the moment, it's hard to even give them away, but okay.
Yeah, it's even hard to give them away.
Well, as Walt mentioned earlier, I don't think there are any issuances of PVLs on the horizon. So all the fee is a signal to the secondary market of the value of the PVL. The issue is the PVLs that are out there are not in service.
Yes. It's not like they are playing, more PVL than drivers. Of course, that's what it was before the COVID started. That's what it was before Uber started. And that's what it has been that, got Uber into this country in the first place. More PVLs than drivers.
The issue is the attractiveness of driving, not the attractiveness of the PVL.
Yeah, so, a lot of people want to get their own PVL. They want to drive be their own boss and everything. Yeah, we encourage that.
As far as we know, but it's still, I haven't heard anybody say what benefit comes from having a $2,500 new license fee. And you're arguing it's an academic question, Chris. If it's an academic question, then there's definitely no harm to lowering it to 500 or 250.
Well, I think, can I just comment? I think Chris said, I think the consideration, I'm not saying this overwhelms it, but the consideration is it sets the value for the secondary market. So if all those people who own them and aren't driving them think to themselves, this could be worth $2,500 when there is demand at some point in the future. And so if we eliminate that, then we are wiping out that hypothetical asset.
Right.
I think
so that should be a concern for the actual driver who's in the conversation. But Peter, is that a concern?
Yes, because keeping the PVL, not putting them in service, and then the county, the DOT is counting on those PVS as number of PVS out there on the street. They are not out here on the street. So it's either the DOT can go after these drivers or whoever has the PVS, put them on the road or bring back the PVS so we can give it to the people who want to come in and drive.
Yeah, you're arguing they're essentially valueless right now, right? Nobody wants a license.
I'll jump in here. I mean,
yeah.
So this is a very tricky circular argument that we're engaging in, where we want to help the here and now, and we want to help a very struggling industry that is struggling because of a lot of different factors outside of its control. On the other hand, too much help for now would disrupt a speculative market for an industry that, if the current trajectory is there, it's not going to fare well. And while we're talking about $2,500 for PVLs, let's be thankful on the bright side that we are not in the New York City taxi cab market, where medallions go for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the market there is in rough shape as well, for the same reasons as here. And so my thoughts are, if we are here trying to compare ourselves to other jurisdictions, and we are an outlier in many of these fees, let's do something now to help those who are hurting now, because if we don't do that, there's not going to be a market for those who are hoping that their PVLs are worth something in the years ahead.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's
and
right.
we can have a meeting next month and change it again if we've changed the market so much. I don't think that's going to happen. So you support a $500 new license fee? Is that?
Well, so
we would need a motion.
Well, so am I to understand what you've been suggesting is that we take some more time to revise this schedule with DOT and then come back in the next month, or are we unilaterally going to start assigning dollar amounts to these categories?
Glenn's suggestion was to do, we agreed on the license renewal fee, which is probably the most significant one. The new license fee I suggested should be lower as well. And there's nothing that precludes the committee from coming back and revisiting this again next month, but we could at least change what we can agree on now.
And I'm looking at the fee schedule here. Which one, what was the other one? If just say it again.
The new license fee is the one we are still discussing.
I say that's the $2,500 one, right? And that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm open to changing that. I don't know if I can agree on a dollar amount right now.
Okay, so
Chris was arguing it's an academic question, whatever dollar.
Yeah, I mean that's an important consideration here.
I would just pick one like 500 or 250 or 1,000, but 2,500 seems overly high, and then we could just move on.
Right, and I'm open to it with the understanding of this circular argument that lowering it too much, upsets those who already have it. But I think we need to do something.
And doesn't this also affect the incentive in terms of seeing if there's a way of having these license be assigned permanently to a wheelchair accessible vehicle?
That's another factor here. This eliminates the incentive for the new PVL, right?
I don't think we are issuing non-wave PVLs new because we're under a mandate to achieve 100% wheelchair accessible by 2025.
So
there's no penalty if you want to switch to a wheelchair one, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
Peter, why isn't that? I don't understand, Peter. Like, if you're still on with us, you can get a PVL for a wave vehicle for free, right? From the county.
Because there aren't the vehicles available, I thought.
Well, at the moment, the vehicles aren't available. That's true from the manufacturers.
Right.
The vehicles are still expensive.
That's been true for some time, right?
It's been true for at least 9 months, maybe a little bit longer. But The fees are reimbursed by the county, and there are financial contributions from the county to purchase the vehicle, but the vehicles are still somewhat expensive for the operator to purchase.
Here's Peter.
There's Peter.
Can I just make one quick comment?
We see your forehead, Peter.
I definitely agree that the industry is in a crisis state, as it has been for many years now, and bolder solutions with a real strategy here would be necessary. I believe, for example, operating a fleet of wheelchair accessible vehicles is something that is a public good. You know, it should be a goal of ours to have a fleet, and that's why we are providing these incentives. But you know, I think we ought to be willing to do more than we're doing to create an adequate fleet of wheelchair vehicles. I also think we've got to transition all the fleets to zero emission vehicles, and we've got to do whatever we can to incentivize people to drive. I would be okay, you know, putting public money towards those goals, you know, beyond just waiving fees, like creating investment by the county in those kinds of goals. And what I would really like is that kind of deeper thinking here. It's hard to do. I feel like this program area is sort of in a box, you know, without a mandate to be outside of that box. But how could we take those bigger steps that might have a bigger impact? So that's just kind of my general, and it's hard, you know, we're all kind of talking about this here. It's just hard to get at these issues. They require a lot of detail. Peter, you were.
Yes, am I on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay. The issue with drivers going into wheelchair is, first off, and our company is the only one, the first company with 100% wheelchair accessible company. We don't invest our money in sedans, but there are people, I heard Tom earlier talked about some people who don't, elderly people who cannot get up on a wheelchair, a wheelchair van. We know that. That's why we have affiliates with sedan join us. But for us as the company, we don't invest in the sedan. But, we have our affiliates to pick up those elderly people who cannot, easily get up on a wheelchair van. Some of them, when they see the van, they say, is this all for me? This big bus? I don't need that. I need a small car. And then, of course, we have to provide that service to them. Some of them, we lift them up into the front seat, which is very, calmly to do, to lift an elderly person up in the front seat. So we still do need a sedan. But I think this discussion probably will come up later, because, 2025 is the target for every taxi on the road to be accessible. It may work, it may not work. But for all I know, I don't think it will work, 100%. But, our goal anyway is to have wheelchair accessible on the road 24/7. And it's very difficult to get to that. We can even get our 12 working properly. So I would say that if drivers, if DOT will work with drivers, it may get this problem solved a little easier than what we are going about now, because DOT is going about academics. This is, come out to the street and see the reality. So
that does totally frustrate me, DOT, that every time I talk to drivers, they say they haven't talked to people at DOT.
No.
And I want to run a committee where, for once, you guys have done the work with the stakeholders and come in with a recommendation that people are actually for, the key stakeholders are actually for, and not fighting against. Because we've been here, we've been talking about this for an hour about what the fee should be for a dying industry when we can't recruit drivers, and your recommendation continues to make it hard to recruit drivers. It's just a waste of all of our time.
Well, Mr. Hucker, this recommendation is of the Taxi Service Commission.
Which doesn't represent that many drivers, right? Peter and his group says you haven't met with them at all.
Drivers, operators, and the public, and Mr. Isaac is part of that commission.
I don't think it's representative, Chris.
No, it does not. Chris, it does not. I've written you a couple of times before. You never even responded to my letter.
Just like so many of our advisory commission, there are the insiders that administrations are comfortable with and not the affected parties.
Yeah, the Taxi Commission is not a good representative of the drivers. The drivers who are there, you don't even let them speak.
Well, I don't run the commission, to be fair.
Yeah, well,
it's run by the chair
run
of the
commission don't let them speak, because I've written to the commission twice with a proposal, and then Harris and the chairman turned me down. They shut me down.
I think this is not productive to the committee making a decision. There may be issues with the commission. Those are the commissions.
I've said this before, Chris. I just want to avoid being put in this position where we have important stakeholders that this committee helped establish at the beginning of this whole process, and they feel like they've been totally shut out of their recommended fee structure. That's just crazy. And we're learning about it today. But I went and met with them, and I heard about it firsthand, and I've heard that from other providers.
Yeah, we had a testimony.
I mean, you can have a hand-picked commission, but that doesn't mean it actually represents the drivers on the street. And that's like a whole lot of our other advisory commissions are. That you don't have any, but that's the approach of the administration on many things. We heard the same thing about the, anyway. I just think we need to move on. We've argued we've heard it's an academic exercise. So, colleagues, is it going to be 500 or is it going to be some other number? Or are we going to take the administration's recommendation, 2,500?
I'm just pulling it back up.
And I think you agreed already on the annual taxi cab driver fee reduction.
So while we focused on our fees, and I brought in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for a similar fee in New York City. Looking at the chart, Prince George's has 250, Arlington has 50, and then other jurisdictions don't have any. And so we have 2,500. So I think
Arlington is 500.
Pardon me?
Arlington is 500.
Sorry, 500. Yeah, 250 for Prince George's.
But you said, Dr. Orland, you don't know how long it's been that way or whether it's been updated, right? This might be from pre Uber and pre-COVID days, as far as we know, right? It's frustrating we don't know that key question.
Councilmember Hucker, I believe Arlington's fees were updated in 2016.
Okay, that was quite a while ago, but yeah, okay, I hear you.
But the data we just received as of, I want to say a month ago, from these jurisdictions. So they provided us with the data.
This is all current.
Yes.
No, it's current. I mean, you know what I'm asking.
Well, I know, but if no one else is actually looking at changing the fees, then this is what they are.
Right. Well, but you don't know whether we are or not. We're doing this because there's a big distortion in a market and a broken system, right? We have people, obviously drivers waiting for a call that aren't getting a call, and we have disabled and senior residents calling for a cab and nobody comes. So the system you created doesn't work anymore. And that's clear. And it's not because it's your fault. That's the changes in the industry. So as far as we know, Prince George's, Arlington, Fairfax, DC might change their fees 2 weeks from now, right? We don't know. That's all I'm saying. We don't know. If anybody could tell me these were just updated in 2021, I would say, oh, we can rely on these fees to make decisions about how we compare. The fact that nobody can say, except for Arlington, that when these were put in place, and Arlington was 5 years ago, that I would think it's to our advantage if we're trying to recruit drivers, and I think everybody agrees that we are, to have the lowest fees in the region. That's my point.
Yeah, for many years, Montgomery has been the highest. Why don't come down?
Right.
Get driver's seat. Because
Since what we're doing doesn't work, we should maybe try something else.
Some of our drivers run to TG to just go to New Carrollton Metro and sit down there.
Yeah.
It's better for them.
So if we are currently at 5,000 and the proposal is for 2,500, and then the nearest closest equivalency is Arlington at 500 and Prince George's at 250. I'd be supportive of going down to 500 at this point for all other things, for no other reason than that.
Great. Councilmember Raymer?
Are these apples to apples? Like DC has 0, for a new license. Fairfax has 0. Is that because they have a fundamentally different system and they're putting some charge somewhere else that isn't, doesn't show up on this? Or is this, generally speaking, they've never had a secondary market and so on and so forth?
There are some nomenclature issues with this, but it, for the most part, is an apples to apples comparison across jurisdictions.
You can see some of the variations in the table itself about where the fees are charged higher or lower in different categories, but I think there's not going to be more information here to give you clarity. I think you probably just need to reach a conclusion on what you want to recommend.
I wonder why Fairfax and Washington aren't very worried about their secondary market. They're 0, which is what I would think would be better. But
we have had a secondary market for years, and it's no longer. What's that?
I'm sure they do too.
I'm sure they don't if they have 0. There's no reason to buy one from someone else. I'm just saying that's the kind of system that we've had. We've had a PVL secondary market system. But it's not.
I should say, I think at one point they're concerned about the value of their driver's licenses, but Peter doesn't seem to be concerned about that. But anyway, I like Councilmember Glass's recommendation.
If we go with this, then is this also reissued in the spring budget, Glenn?
It doesn't come up automatically. Yeah, it doesn't come up automatically. It just comes up whenever the council decides it wants to, or the executive decides it wants to bring it up. The larger resolution that you're familiar with, transportation fees, that also really just changes whenever you want to, but because there's always changes to ride-on fares or parking fees, we tend to do that every year. But this one will just come up whenever, as Mr. Hooker mentioned, whenever folks want to bring it up, next month or 2 years from now or whenever.
So, Peter, if we were to make this 0 or $500, then no longer is there an incentive for people to get the wheelchair accessible vehicles, right?
I mean, that's not it's not a incentive for them to get wheelchair accessible, but we do have a fund for that, for the services of wheelchair. So for people getting a wheelchair accessible, 500 for the new PVL should be just what it is. It's not like you buy. How many people are gonna buy wheelchair accessible, which is very expensive, to get 500 incentive?
I'm not sure if I understand. What I was saying was, my understanding is, if you want to drive a wheelchair accessible vehicle, you will not pay any PVL fee today, because it will be refunded. Is that not?
That's what it is, But I'll tell you right now, we still have our application since last year to be refunded. We haven't got it.
So you haven't been getting those refunds?
No, we have not got it yet.
What's going on with that?
And then I don't know. And then they asked for all these kinds of papers. We submitted all the papers they wanted. We still don't have it.
Yes. Well, that's an error on my end. I'm working to rectify that problem. I'm working with staff on getting Mr. Ibeck his reimbursement.
How long have people been waiting for their reimbursements, and how many?
Mr. Ibeck's been the only person who's been waiting for his reimbursement. And as indicated, this is my error, and I'm working to rectify it. He's been
I
waiting
don't know why,
for some time.
That should be. We are suffering.
Peter, how long have you been waiting?
New company. We are trying to fit in, and
Right.
then we are being held back.
We've made it very hard for you. How long have you been waiting, Peter?
Since we registered in February, and then submitted for reimbursement somewhere.
2021?
Yeah, 2021.
Okay, so that's a year.
Yeah, and then the first PVL that we have for renewal, actually, literally, Miss Denise Denise James refused to acknowledge that.
Okay.
So that I will still forward that email to and the package to Mr. Kaplan, because Denise and Walton evidently cannot solve that problem. So I have to forward it to the director.
Okay. So that, again, gang, I never want to hear about that. And I've heard about it multiple times. Colleagues, what should the fee be?
I mean, it should be zero probably, right? I mean, what's the point of 500 if DC is at zero and Fairfax is at zero?
And the director says it's an academic exercise. I think there's no downside. Right. Nobody wants these anyway.
Well,
right.
I'm fine with zero. What I was trying to find was that landing place between those who want to engage in the speculative market of what their license might be in an industry that might not be here. But I'm fine with zero.
Okay. So it's zero. And all the other ones we're not going to mess with now. Is that accurate? We've done new ones and renewals. Okay, great. Otherwise, we're going to take the executive's proposal. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great, without objection. Okay. Any objections to moving on to street trees?
Keep going.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you,
Thanks, Sam. Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Peter.
Street trees. This is typically a pretty straightforward thing. What happens is that in 2014 law requires that any developer or individual takes out a street tree, that's a county tree and a county right of way, for whatever reason, has to pay for replacement of 3 trees. And the cost at the time that the law was passed, the estimate of acquiring and installing a street tree was $250. What happens every year is that at budget time, typically we budget about usually $75,000 as a perspective as to how much money we think we're going to collect in terms of these street trees. And then whatever amount is collected over that, there's a supplemental appropriation early in the following year to basically approve that and to allow DOT to go ahead and acquire and plant more trees. This year is actually the overage, if you will, was quite a bit. It was way above $75,000. It was $268,000 and change, and so the supplemental appropriation is for $193,483. And typically this doesn't even go to committee because it's just basically the money's been collected. Everyone wants street trees. The money can only be used to plant street trees. And so it's there. However, there's 2 issues that's come up. One is having to do with the law itself, or the executive reg that was approved just after the law was approved 2014, which assumes that the cost for acquiring planting trees is $250. The cost now is $400. And so the amount that we're collecting from individuals, developers, is actually quite a bit less than the cost of replacing 3 trees. So my first recommendation, and it's not part of this action, it would be a follow-up, would be to urge the executive to forward an executive reg that would amend that total from $250 a tree, effectively $750 per tree that's taken out, because again, it's replacing 3 trees, to $400, and that would be $1,200, and with an inflator in there.
And then to index it. So it reflects the actual cost.
Right. Now that would just be asking the committee, see if the committee is willing to either send a letter or whatever to urge the executive to do that and send that over to the council. And frankly, if that could be done in the next few months, going through all the process of reg, it's possible it could be in effect by the beginning of FY23. So if we can start with that.
You're starting with number 2. Can we approve the 193 Everybody fine with that? This
The
is
appropriation?
sort of pro forma, yes.
Okay.
We want trees to get planted. We don't want the money just sitting in the fund, right?
Right.
Good idea. Okay. And now to Glenn's idea that the cost should actually reflect the updated regulation to reflect the true cost. Any comments? Does everybody understand?
I just wanted to say, this fund was created as a result of the amendment that I introduced to the tree canopy law. The idea of having this planting ratio, was we planted tens of thousands of trees, I think, as a result of this. I don't know if anyone on hand can tell us how many we've planted, but it does make sense for it to keep pace with the cost of trees, which, we plant trees, I think, at a high level of care and standard. We're not going to do it today, but I would love it at some point to review that, or I've often heard from Casey Trees that planting smaller trees is better than planting bigger trees, because they succeed more. Whether we are implementing this in a way that is optimal, but all that said, makes sense to me. I'm sure it will not be totally welcome from those paying the fee, but as a practical reality, I think we've got to replace those trees that we lose with new trees, and there's just no way around that. So thanks.
So those are the action items.
Councilmember Glass.
Yeah, no, real quick. I appreciate Councilmember Raymer's leadership on this. I remember before I got to the council advocating as part of Conservation Montgomery and other orgs, absolutely for this. And so while we're updating this, I think digging a little deeper into Councilmember Raymer's point, do we need to update the types and species of trees that are allowed by this? Recognizing climate change, recognizing our hopefully renewed emphasis on local, more native trees from around here.
Mr. Linkletter is with us if you want to hear from us about what types of trees are planted. It generally corresponds to local native or other species likely to thrive here, but he could probably also address the level of accomplishment with the program if you want to hear that now, or I'm not sure your schedules at this point.
Well, I think we're all in agreement about this, but Mr. Linkletter, if you want to share some of the accomplishments, and if you think to Councilmember Rimmer's point, and then if you think we need to refine what types of tree purchases this fund can go towards.
Well, we basically update the types of trees that are, in our palette, so to speak, of ones that we plant. One thing to remember is there's native trees, there's non-native trees, and there's non-native invasive trees. We plant a lot of non-native trees and native trees. We never plant non-native invasive. And the reason we plant non-native trees is because we aren't really dealing with a native environment. The street, the land along the street is nowhere near to be, native. The soil isn't native. The surrounding area is not native. It's a completely different environment. So as urban foresters, we look at it from that aspect. We want to plant what works best. A lot of native trees aren't going to do well in that sort of environment. If we have native trees that we can use, we certainly use them, like black gums, white oaks. We do use those fairly often. But, I wouldn't be being truthful if I said we rely completely on native trees and completely focus on that. It's very important for the health of the urban forest to plant something that's going to, be in harmony, so to speak, as much as possible with the environment we're given.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I've actually never thought about it from that perspective as we think about what a native habitat is, and having a tree on a state highway sandwiched in between a curb and a sidewalk is not actually its native habitat, despite the climate and rainfall and all of that. So thank you for opening my eyes to those complex, I guess, factors. But I'm glad to hear that we're not doing the invasives as well. But I think as a more broader statement, and I'll just end on this. As the effects of climate change become worse and worse, I think we might need to rethink that and figure out the types of trees that we're planting and other types of fauna around the county that can best absorb the change that we're experiencing. So
yeah, and I agree, Mr. Glass. And what we do is we do change things, fairly often on what our species list is, and we do that accordance to the different abiotic, which is climate change, and the biotic stuff, which are insects and diseases. We're constantly looking at those to see what is going on, and we either take trees off the list or put trees onto it that are congruent with what's happening. And so currently the trees that we, try to focus on definitely are considerate of the abiotic things that are happening, i.e. the climate types of issues that are happening around here. So yeah, I feel pretty comfortable what we're doing, and it's a moving, it's a moving target. It's a living document. It's not set in stone. So we are very, open to changing it whenever it's appropriate.
Great, thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Hey Brett, how many trees are we planting a year now?
Well, last fiscal year we planted 1,611. I'm sorry.
Can you be more precise, please?
Is that through all county funded programs, or is that just your street tree program? Or
well, it's the street trees, and just to give you a little bit of an idea, and I don't stop me if this is too much. Our budget to do to plant all these trees, almost half of it this fiscal year would be from the street tree law that we're talking about right now, the $193,000 I think it is that we're trying to add to it right now. That's a big chunk of change. I mean, of the total this year, I think we have around almost $600,000 to spend, and the total for that would be 268. So it's almost half of what we're spending. So yeah, it contributes quite a bit to what we're doing. So I would say 45% of 1,600 is what would come out of the street tree law.
And the rest is through just general appropriation. And does that cover all of Tree Montgomery, or is that a different?
Tree Montgomery is with DEP, and that involves trees on private property.
Right. This is
we're
DOT.
Strictly right of way.
Okay.
Easy to mix them up in this committee. We get them both. So, Brett, good work. 1,611. How long is your backlog? If I call and I say I want a beautiful tree in front of my house.
Well, our backlog for removals, pruning, and stumps is fairly static number, but the pruning is a little bit. The planting is a little bit different because with planting we're subject to the availability of the species that we want to put in. And we're also subject to whether the stump's been ground out or not.
I should have started at the beginning. How long is your backlog for grinding stumps? If I need a stump ground, is it 2 years, year and a half?
More like 5.
5 years.
Yeah. To give you an approximate number of stumps, as of November 30th, it was 14,214 stumps.
14,214. Right. And there's 5 a year I call you and argue and yell at you about. Okay.
That's assuming we keep getting our funding.
Yeah. What would be the cost of getting rid of all of those?
Probably about $6.5 million.
If you had contractor availability. Okay.
Yeah. I think we could find the contractors to do that. But one thing to remember about that $6.5 million is once we're getting rid of that backlog, we're creating trees for the backlog every day.
Right.
So by the time we get that $6.5 million done, we already have probably 1.2 million more of stumps.
Right. Right. It's like like all backlogs, like we have seen with residential street paving, right, Chris?
Yep. No, it's really no different. It's infrastructure like all the other infrastructure.
Takes years to dig out.
Keeping up or not keeping up.
I mean, if more money's available this year, it would just be nice to make a dent in that. I've argued for that in past years when we haven't been in a recession, and it'd be nice to do that with the coming budget. Just like we dug out slowly of the residential street repaving backlog.
Appreciate all that. I mean, the stump component is probably a lower priority than the pruning and removal component, just because it doesn't have the same direct safety impact. But yeah, we'd like to address all these backlogs.
Agreed. But
one thing I'd like to say about we started a program where we talked to a lot of community associations or HOAs or management companies and try to induce them to grind the stumps within their area. And if they grind the stumps, we will then prioritize them to get replanted as quickly as possible. And we probably had, my guess is 250 to 300 stumps ground out last year by those types of groups.
Good.
So, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, but it's something, and it's good to be working with those associations.
Agreed. There's a lot of them. Okay, so this is approved, and the request for an updated executive regulation is approved. Is that correct, colleagues? Great. Okay, well, this was also easy. I'm glad.
I just want to point out, you can read at your own leisure, but there's a whole section here on the racial equity and social justice. The office had made a finding which, frankly, I don't agree with, and I talk about it in the memo, but it doesn't pertain particularly to the whether you're approving the appropriation or not.
Right. Okay.
Okay. With that, these will go to council for action on Tuesday.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for being here, Brett. Thanks, Chris.
Pleasure.